God's work in the world for our good. Join host Jason McKnight as we explore practical issues of community, theology, and leadership in everyday life.
Well, welcome everybody. Glad you're with us here on Encounter Grace. I'm Jason McKnight. Ben, how are you today?
I'm doing very well today.
We just came back from lunch at San Juan. And because we were there because we have someone very special in the studio with us. And if you're watching, you can see him. If you're listening, you can hear him. Coach Mike Hendrix, all the way from Hendersonville, Tennessee.
I'm glad to be here.
That's a good last name, Coach.
It is.
I mean, I am surrounded by Hendrix. What's the plural of Hendrix? Is it, I don't know, Hendrix?
I just cockily say Hendrices. You know.
Hendrices.
Or Hendrixism.
Yeah.
Oh, now we're in trouble. Mike, so not only are you, what are you doing in Kinston, by the way, from Hendersonville?
I come up here to see my son, my daughter-in-law, and my granddaughter.
Oh, wow, you have family in this area.
I do.
Wow, who, oh, man. Well, I guess it's Ben, isn't it?
That's correct.
I mean, we know we can't keep it going too long.
He's my favorite son,
but not your favorite kid. Anyway.
Wow, my second favorite dad.
This is going to get fun. No, what we want to do today is talk about Coach Mike coached and taught in the public school system in Hendersonville, Tennessee, north of Nashville, for 4 decades. And that's a really impressive thing. And we'd love to talk about some of your experiences in the journey there and encourage folks. We at Grace and in our listening community, we have a lot of teachers in homeschool, private school, Christian school, and a lot of teachers in the public school, and we love them. And we'd love to encourage folks. But also, you know, life is full of twists and turns and plot twists that God knows is coming and we don't. And we'd love to talk a little bit about maybe even what you've learned in the last 5 or 6 years as we get going later on. So let's talk first about teaching and coaching. And Ben, I mean, what kind of a coach was he?
He was something special. He was one that, man, how do you define this in just simple terms? Always a joy, always a pleasure. Never knew what was coming, and you never knew what was said. He had never had any idea what it meant, but you always knew where you stood, and that was always one of the coolest things.
There you go.
I mean, so you played for your dad? Yeah.
So I mean, for all 4 years of high school, I played for him, and I mean, one of the coolest opportunities of my life, just getting to kind of navigate through what does that look like. I mean, when it's one thing when dad's dad, but when dad's coach and dad's boss, and you got to figure out what that means. And fortunately, he navigated that for me probably much better than I could have navigated. And but it's a complicated thing. Yeah. But again, always a joy. Yeah. I mean, what do you think, Coach?
Well, I think that the 4 years that you were there at Hendersonville High School and you played baseball for me were probably 4 of the greatest years I had coaching there. I was there, I coached there 33 years in baseball. Wow. And, those 4 years were great. Not only did I get to coach, but you got to be beside your son. You got to be with your son all the time. And what a great experience that anybody, I loved it. I loved it.
Did you ever get in trouble with his mom for how you treated him on the diamond?
Not really.
She was on side.
She was on there. She just always says, make him act right.
Make him act right.
We talking about the same mom here? I'll never forget. She's the one who got mad at me because I got out one time. And I went down the first baseline saying things I shouldn't have been saying.
There you went.
And she pulled me aside and she goes, look, if you're going to cuss here in front of everybody, you better do it right.
Mom. Oh, man.
That might be a good reason you're in the position you are right now.
Yeah, I had to run from something, huh?
The Lord was saying, all right, we got to get this guy off the bad language. Well, Mike, what drew you into teaching all those years ago?
And
coaching.
When I went it wasn't middle school then, it was junior high school.
Yeah, sure.
And when I went
in... Were Abe Lincoln? Is that when?
Yes, that was back before lights were invented. I always knew what I wanted to do. I had good coaches and good people there. I knew from right there that I always wanted to teach school. I wanted to be a coach. And that's what I wanted to do. And when I graduated from Belmont, I made sure that I got my degree and I had my teaching degree and I was ready to go.
You're ready to go.
And it was a great career. I mean, it's a tremendous career to be around people, to be around young people. You don't make a lot of money, but you have a lot of happiness.
Yeah, really.
So, Coach, just for everybody, will you tell them what all you taught and each kind of subject because you ran the gambit a little bit.
Mainly, I taught health and PE.
Yep.
And I have a degree in biology. I taught biology for a long time.
Wow.
And when I first started, I was in middle school teaching, and I taught everything. I've taught Tennessee history. I've taught music appreciation. I've taught a little bit of everything.
The Renaissance man, huh?
There you go.
Everything. I love it. I would have loved you as a teacher.
I'm trying to imagine you in music appreciation. I had no idea.
Well,
here's Beethoven's Fifth.
On Fridays in music appreciation, I used to call it All Faith Day.
Yeah.
You bring you brought to class what you wanted to hear that day.
I love it.
As long as it was clean and healthy and whatever, we did it. Everybody got to they got to play their music that day.
Well, it's kind of like all request hour.
Yes.
I love this. And you're teaching kids they can appreciate, and then you're helping the other ones appreciate.
Right.
This guy's over here. I love it.
Yeah, it's a lot of that. No music degree or no music background or anything like that. It was run and go with it.
Wow. And so you taught middle school, and then 33 years at Hendersonville High School. Is that what you said?
I started teaching in the fall of 1977. I stayed at a place that was called Knoxdoss Junior High School, and I was there until the spring of '84.
Yeah.
And then in the fall of '84, I went to Hendersonville High School.
Wow.
And until I retired back in the spring of 2021.
Yeah, so you've just been retired over a year.
I have, and I enjoy every minute of it.
Well, that's good. So Hendersonville High School, how big was it when you started versus when you ended? Like, did it grow while you were there? Or was it just kind of already at capacity and away we go?
It was big. It was probably 1,500 kids, maybe. Sometimes if new schools were built, they would take and go, and they might take 200 or 300 kids. So, but we, in athletics, we were always the highest the highest that you could be there, and division, and that's where we played.
Yeah.
So before we move on to anything serious, this is your chance to name drop and to prove that I'm not a liar here at Grace. So besides me, who are the most famous people that you have either come out of Hendersonville High School that you know about? Maybe you coached them, or maybe you coached against them.
I had.
So her name starts with Taylor.
Oh, I am. I can say right here in front of everybody, I did teach Taylor Swift.
Did you cut her from the team, Coach?
No, she would not have gotten cut.
No, you taught her music appreciation, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
That's why she is today.
That's where she got it from All Faith Day.
Wow.
What about some of the players? Because there's some big players that I played against and that you coached against.
Let's see. I coached against David Price, who plays now for the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah.
I did coach Zach Curtis, who played for the Diamondbacks.
Yep.
And a long time ago, he's out of baseball now, but he is a high school coach in Tennessee, which really makes me feel good. There's a lot of people around this area that's in Major League Baseball right now that we've played against.
Yeah, like I even got to play against, and you coached against guys like Sonny Gray.
Yes, Sonny Gray
was playing for the A's and then in the Yankees for a while. Guys like everybody will know this name, I think, like Mookie Betts.
Mookie Betts.
He played at your alma mater.
He did. He played it he's an Overton High School graduate.
Yeah, we're just name dropping here, Coach. It's just like such a cool thing that 44 years of teaching. How many years of coaching high school baseball?
33 years.
33 years of you've seen stars like actually play in high school. Like that's an incredible thing. The amount of things that I think you've seen, coaching 33 years, teaching for 44, like I think it's amazing the amount of stuff that you've gotten to see. Like these awesome players, but also like a lot of transition, a lot of changes, just from the way that kids have changed in 4 decades, as well as the school system has changed in 4 decades. Like I think that's a really cool thing to think about. So like, what have you seen change? So maybe like with kids in the last 4 decades, or maybe just with public school education in general?
That's a great question.
Kids have changed a lot since 1977. I mean, back there, I'm talking about, you hit a nerve when you talk about discipline and things. Kids were disciplined more at home back then than they are today. I think sometimes today, this is just my opinion, that families today with kids, they're looking for their kids to be a friend. They want to be a friend to their kids and not their parents. But kids have changed, yes. It was a little harder. I had to change a little bit with time, on how to coach the game. But my discipline stayed basically the same. You do what's right. I had 3 things that I went by: do the best you can, do what's right, do the best you can, and do unto others. That means treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yeah,
yeah, that's good. And they're not getting that at home as much as they were back 70s and 80s.
That's exactly right.
No, it's true. It's a little bit different. I think that's really interesting. Like parents maybe today, and I see this too, I would affirm this, they really want to be their kids' friends. Like something in the cultural air says, be your kids' friends. But here I'm sitting between 2 friends because you were a parent.
Right.
Like now you're friends.
True.
But if you tried to be his friend as a 12-year-old, and not upset the fruit basket, but man, you had to keep him in line.
Yep.
I mean, I have to keep him in line now.
Somebody does.
But it's true though. The friendship comes.
Yeah, and and I decided a long time ago, back when Ben came on at Hendersonville High School, the big thing, and I sat down one day, and I get in trouble when I think too much. But I thought I'm not going to lose my relationship with my son over baseball.
Right.
Now, if he messed up on the field, I did him like anybody else. I do not embarrass my guys on the field in front of their mamas, daddies, and other students and things. I get them in the dugout. I get them in there. And he got the same thing everybody else does. If he messed up, he messed up.
Yeah.
You enjoy it and you go on.
That's right.
Yeah. I always thought one of the coolest things just from your coaching, I think this is such a hard thing to navigate. I mean, like for the parents listening, this is an interesting thing to have to navigate with your kids. Like when you're leading kids, it's a hard thing like to be the person who is the friend, but also isn't their friend as well. Because there are times where you want both of those. That was actually something, I don't know how much thought you put into that, but one of those things you navigated really, really well. One, as your son, but also as a player. Like I mean, as a player, I got to hear from all my buddies of like the ones playing who loved you for every second because they got to play, and the ones who were frustrated with you all the time because you didn't play them enough. But the one thing that every one of them affirmed, whether wasn't always whether they thought you were the greatest coach or the best coach or whatever, the one thing everyone affirmed was they knew that you loved them. And I always thought that was such a powerful thing. Like everybody who's ever been who's coached beside you, I think, and then all the ones of the players that I know who have played for you, like they've always known where they stood with you. They felt respected, they felt encouraged, they felt led well, and they felt loved. Now, they may not have gotten to play nearly as much as they wanted to. They didn't always get their way because you still had to lead and you still had to coach. But they knew that even if you got in trouble, even if you messed up, you were there for them. I always thought that was like one of those things that was, one of the most helpful things, one for players, but also for like as a son in general, like knowing that no matter how many dumb mistakes I made, I was still coming back to a family, to a mom or a dad that loved me, like through that. Like that was an incredible thing because it's really hard. I'm learning this just as a year, like as Harper's about to turn a year, like it's easy to kind of judge your kids based on like how easy things are going or how well they did at something. But like I always just knew no matter how good or bad something was, it was coming home to to family that loved me and to a coach that loved me. And like that was always such an incredible thing.
Well, my daddy told me something a long time ago, and it was every time I got in trouble, and whether I got a spanking, if you want to call it that, or whatever, he always told me. He says this hurts me more than it does you, and I said, okay, right,
Yeah.
But then when you have your own kids, and you have to discipline your kids, and then I go back and I say, whoa, he's right. It hurts me to have to discipline my kids.
Yeah.
But if you don't discipline your own kids, who's going to do it?
Because reality will.
Yes.
And if they're not equipped to deal with reality, we're screwed.
Right. That's exactly right. And I'm not perfect. I play a lot with my heart.
Yeah.
So one question I have for you is I think you've navigated. You've made comments on both sides. You've navigated this well. It's like, as a teacher, you always want parental involvement. I mean, just from to be able to invest in kids, and that when they go home, they're going to make them act right. When all that side, so high parental involvement there. But as a coach, it's often like you want a little less parental involvement because coach is coach, and he's going to make a decision. He's going to do what's best for the team. So my question is, and I think this is a great thing for all of our parents to hear, is like, what's a good amount of parental involvement at school, at home? I mean, with coaches on sports teams, like how do you navigate that as a parent?
The big thing to me is know what your son or daughter is doing. Know what they're involved in. Know who they're involved with, and go there. And at school. I mean, at school, you can't ask too many questions as a parent.
Yeah.
Find out what's going on. You think, well, I hate calling up. Call up there. Find out what's going on. Mm-hmm. Now, on the athletic field, it's a little different thing because nobody in athletics is guaranteed anything.
Right. Right.
And it was always for me. If you were good enough, you played. If you wasn't good enough, then you were over there with me, and that's kind of cruel or whatever, but that's the way it goes.
Well, you have to. I mean, you are not getting wins by playing the owner's kid.
Right.
You're just not when he can't catch a ball.
Yep. And there's a lot of people that doesn't agree with that, and it's basically like I tell parents, whether it's right or wrong or whatever. I said, there's only one boss, and I got elected.
Yeah.
And I run it the best way I can.
I think it helps to have a few stock phrases you give to parents.
Yeah.
There's only one boss and I got elected.
There you go.
It just kind of crystallizes.
There's a whole book of Mike Hendrix sayings.
Yes, they'll be available after the show.
Yeah.
So you can order them on our Patreon account.
That's what we meant when we said Hendrixism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hendrixism, that's true. I mean, how many kids have you coached? I mean, if you had a ballpark.
Oh, gosh. I don't know. I mean, 33 years times, there might be 20 kids on a roster. That's just like a varsity roster. I mean, we usually kept, close to 40 kids.
Wow.
So there's been a lot.
So there's a lot of kids.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of kids. To me, they're all good kids. All good kids mess up sometimes.
Well, that's true.
And it's like I always tell them. I told them every day at practice that at the end, at the beginning, or whenever that we all love them. Yeah. Everybody wants to know they're loved. Mm-hmm. And I told them, I said, listen, I love you guys. I love you like my own son. Now you can call me daddy, but don't ask for money.
That's great.
But I love these kids, and I guess that's the reason. That's how I lasted so long.
Right. Right. Because you loved it.
Right.
You loved them.
I loved who played for me, and I loved what I did.
Mm-hmm. How? I don't even know this, and I'm embarrassed now that we're here recording. But how did y'all do over the 33 years in terms of wins, in terms of tournaments, in terms of championships, and all that kind of stuff?
We won our district championship quite a few times, not every year. We made it to. We go next to a regional tournament. Mm-hmm. We did pretty well there. The end result is in high school is making it to the state tournament. So I think in my 33 years we made it there 6 times.
Excellent. Wow.
We finished second once and third and fourth after that.
Wow.
So,
fantastic.
it's. I was really blessed.
Yeah, that's
I was blessed by not only having good kids that played for me, but having good kids that were good athletes.
Yeah.
Maybe not the best. I mean, you coach for 33 years at one place, and you have one. Correct me if I'm wrong. You have one guy that played for you that made it to the major leagues.
Yeah.
It tells you how hard it is to make it to the big time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, we played with good baseball players. Not everybody that played was great, but they were good, and we made what happened.
Yep. Because it's a team sport, and
that's exactly right.
There is synergy. Synergy.
That's exactly right, and it was great. I mean, it's gonna be different now.
Well, I mean, we got some great teams in Eastern North Carolina. You can come coach.
There you go. They may not want an old guy, though.
They might not want an old guy. I don't know.
Man. I just find it so, and I alluded to this a little earlier ago, but I think it's an incredible thing of 33 years of consistency of coaching and 44 years of consistency more or less at the same exact school. I mean, close to it, right?
Yep.
Being at Hendersonville. The level of legacy that you have left at that school, but also just in the community of Hendersonville, it really is an amazing thing. I mean, it was one of those things that growing up I didn't quite understand. Because, I mean, at one point it was being formed at that time, but I also just missed it. There's just a level of legacy that it baffles me at times. I mean, wherever we go, somebody you are the Jimbo Perry of Hendersonville. And to me, it's just an incredible thing because it's not because you're some massive name somewhere, you did some amazing, unspeakable thing here or there, but that for 44 years you've been part of a community. For 33 years you've coached and you've made a difference in lives. It's always a helpful reminder to me to think back of I mean, it's not the legacy of winning 20 state championships in a row and everyone goes, that's the guy. It's just slow and small levels of faithfulness can make huge legacies and huge differences in lives because and I don't know how often you think of this, is how many people come back and remember you? How many players come back and still can think back to something you said or to something you did that made a difference? And what is cool to me is this isn't just a you thing. I mean, it's definitely a you thing, but we're seeing that with so many of our teachers here in Kinston. I mean, so many other teachers in Hendersonville and so many teachers it has to be, I mean, across the U.S. of teachers really making a difference in the lives of their students because they spend so much time, but they care for them.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a cool thing to think about, the amount of legacy that you've left, whether you meant to or not.
You don't go out looking to do something.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, I feel like Norm on Cheers. Everybody knows your name, but they don't know your real name.
I thought you were Coach on Cheers.
There you go.
You talked about seeing stars before. I saw stars when I got hit in the head with a foul ball.
There you go.
So I was switching gears a little bit here and legacy, and I see how you deflected there. But yeah, you left a legacy just by doing your best, do the right thing, and do unto others.
There you go.
For a bunch of years. I was standing in line in West Nashville 2 or 3 years ago, and at Hattie B's.
Oh, chicken place.
I was getting hot chicken or whatever it's called. I mean, I've only had it a few times, but it was delicious. But I was standing in line there out the door because the line is out the door at those, somehow I was asking the people behind me, whatever, where are you from? They said, oh yeah, we're just from up the road there, up in Hendersonville. I said, Hendersonville, do you know Coach Hendrix? And they said, yeah, but we really know his wife. She was my favorite teacher, is what the girl said. And tell us a little bit about Helen Mary. She was, I mean, if you left a legacy, she did too, didn't she?
Yeah, listen, Helen Mary and I were married 34, going on 35 years, and she had her outlook on life, and she was a good woman. She was a great mother. She treated my two kids great.
Yeah.
And speaking of the other one, my other one is a daughter, and her name is Rachel, and she is a college professor at West Virginia University.
Wow.
And I tell you what, I couldn't ask any more out of my two children than what I've got right now.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
but
we love it when Rachel comes to visit.
Yes, and Helen Mary, she loved kids too, and she loved education, and she loved being around those kids, and she probably left more than I did. Because there's more people that talk about her than they do, and she didn't even do the coach or whatever. She was more important. She was a teacher.
Well, and because everyone loves art teacher. What didn't she do? Fine arts and that kind of stuff.
She taught English.
Why did I think she
English for a while?
English for a while.
Yeah, and then she was an art major.
Art major.
And finally, it took her a while to get an art job, and she got it, and she was there until she retired.
Yeah, yeah, and she did. Ben has some of it on his wall in his office, and I just love it. And of course, everybody loves art teacher.
Yep.
Because everyone has a good time in art class because you don't have to cram in the algebra. Algebra and trigonometry, that was tough, man. Dates and history, but we all like art.
And there's always some discipline that makes your art look good. You're like, you can make some mess. You're like, oh.
Yeah, that's
so you're in this discipline. Wow, yeah.
It's true. I'm an impressionist. Yeah. You can't be a baseball impressionist, man. You got to hit the home run.
Yeah, I didn't,
Always be a surrealist,
I wasn't very good at the art world.
Yeah.
And, sometimes you hear about that, and it's kind of like, I go to all these baseball games, and how many art galleries do you go to? And you don't have much to say here. I'm wrong. There you go.
No. Oh man, now I feel like it's Diane and Sam on Cheers.
There you go. But Helen Mary was a good mother. She was a good wife. She was a good person. And it was just a tragedy when she passed away, and it'll be 5 years in December.
It'll be 5 years in December. I remember. So I shouldn't talk. I should let you guys talk, but I just remember getting the call from Ben out of the blue.
Right.
I mean, tell us about that, guys. Like, you just. She just.
Just an unexpected death. I'll never forget waking up that morning to a phone call from my sister. You literally get woken up to that phone call. You be told, hey, mom's dead. And you kind of think that you have the ability to process things like that. But and maybe some people do, but I just remember sitting there staring up at the ceiling, unable to process what I just heard, to the point where I disbelieved my own sister, and I called my dad and then my grandmother just to confirm, as if,
right,
just to hear it again. And then, one of the longest drives of our life, all the way back to Tennessee, falling asleep here and there on the way, just praying that that you heard wrong and something was different, but unfortunately it wasn't, and that was the case. That unexpectedly, my mom had passed away. I think it was labeled as a heart attack.
Yeah, it was put down as a heart attack.
Yeah, and it just came from just a long life, but a well-lived life, but one that left a lot of hurt, and just it was difficult to navigate through. And one thing that ultimately led to our relationship even becoming stronger. I think that was one of those things in the last 5 years. And I think this is testimony that it's not always good stuff that brings about fruit, even difficult stuff. I think this is one of those pieces that transitioned us from you just being my dad to really being a friend, because I had to minister to you in some ways, because you it wasn't just me who lost my mom. You lost your wife, and that is a huge thing. But we had to navigate this together as a family, going like you can't prepare for that. It was unexpected. And then you have the little bit of regret, or the things you wish you had said, the things you wish you hadn't said, or on and on. But now it's, well, how do we move forward as a family? Because we don't want to lose what we have, and we don't want to, like, this is just messy. And so over the last 5 years, it's just us getting to navigate that and work together towards that and move forward in that. And I mean, it's been a hard season, a hard couple of years.
Well, it has been, and I think, sometimes I think your mom's death has pushed me closer to the Lord, and put me in a different situation. Sure. And I do a lot of things. I do a lot of things different now that I probably didn't do. I didn't do then. And but I have no regrets of what I did before.
That's good.
But I think sometimes that I hate to say that somebody dies to help me or whatever, but I think it just pushed me. It made me see things in a different light and pushed me in a different direction. It got me involved more in the church and going back to church more and doing things like that. If that's the case, of that right there, I hate that I hate for anyone to have to be the sacrifice,
right,
or whatever like that. But I'm a different person now than I was 5 years ago.
Yeah, and it's been amazing to watch the Lord really work in that. Just as we've kind of navigated that, I always kind of make it of a joke. Like, you grew up Southern Baptist, you grew up Catholic, you guys met in the middle, and we didn't really go to church. And but I mean, like, after passing, as we navigated that together, we just tried to figure it out. Like, for what it's worth, I don't know if I've ever said this. It was just so cool to watch the Lord work in your life. Like, I never thought he wasn't at work in your life. Like, I mean, you have a level of grace and kindness that can only come from the Lord's presence. But it was so cool to watch him draw you in such a difficult time. I mean, you have such a community anyways, but the Lord drew you into that, not out from that community, but into even a newer one, like at Long Hollow, getting plugged in. I mean, meeting new friends, but also investing in so many of the other friends that you already had that just happened to go there. Yep. It's just been a really cool thing that despite a tragedy, and that's what it really was, the Lord still meets us there and meets us in those moments. And there's still fruit and goodness and life that can come from our hardest and most difficult moments. Only God can do that. Yep.
And, thank goodness for my buddy, Harold.
Yeah.
And, that he, and that next Sunday or the Sunday, whatever it was, he called and he says, you need to go to church with us.
And with us, though. That was the key.
Yeah.
With us. Come with us.
With us. And so I met him and his wife at Long Hollow, and that's where I've been there 5 years now.
Yeah.
And things like that. So it's a wonderful thing. I mean, it's great. Long Hollow is a very big church. You don't really know. You only know people that you know, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of people there that I have no idea who they are. Mm-hmm. And, there's a good thing about going to a big church, and then there's a real good thing about going to a small church because you know everybody.
Yeah.
And I like to know everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, I think there's a house for sale for you right here if you want to be part. But anyway, we know you're.
I'm not going to say what I want to say, but
Well, that's amazing. It is. God just moves. He uses everything. Nothing's at a loss for him, and that's the good thing. I mean, Romans 8:28, he is always at work for our good, not for our comfort, not for our ease, but for our good, and it's a good thing. Well, Mike, I mean, I know you got grandbaby to see. You got to get back to Harper, and we really appreciate the time. But I got to tell you, too, that you need to know this, and I don't know if we've said this, but the way you and Helen Mary raised Ben and raised Rachel, but like we get the blessing of that because what Ben is doing is really all the stuff he learned from you about coaching and about living and about doing your best and doing the right thing and doing unto others and following Jesus. He's just able to take from what you've given him at a high level of maturity and joy and impart to others. And it is to the blessing. I mean, I went by the small group, like on youth group night, the small group boys filed out while I was happened to be walking by. 14 boys in the small group. I mean, this isn't even the whole youth group. It's the small group. I'm like, maybe it's not even a small group anymore. Maybe we need to have, but anyway. But he's just knocking the ball out of the park.
And that's great.
And I know you know that, but it's just.
I tell you what, I couldn't be more proud of my two kids.
I love it.
They're good people. That's all you can ask.
That is all you can ask. And he is showing others how to follow the Lord and be good people.
That's even better.
And, being proud of your kids is a good and godly thing.
Yes, it is.
I mean, making them an idol isn't, but being proud of them is, and you ought to be proud of Ben.
Oh, I am.
Let me just say. Well, Mike, thanks for giving us some time today. It is good, and as Ben, you said, encouraging all of our teachers who are listening to this, no matter what classroom you're in, the fact that when you just love the people in front of you, it makes lives change. And then how God uses everything in our lives, even a tragic death, and he's good in it. And friends come by and say, well, come with us.
Well, I know one thing. I wouldn't give up. I wouldn't give my 44 years of teaching. If I had it to do over, I'd probably do it again.
That's good. What a great word. Well, thank you,
You're
Mike.
welcome.
Thank you, Ben. Any rebuttal?
No, thank you.
Well, guys, thank you for joining us here on Encounter Grace. Come back the next time, and we'll try and have another 40-year veteran coach for you. See ya.
This is a ministry of Grace Fellowship Church in Kinston, North Carolina. Visit gracekinston.org or follow